Hello, students, and welcome to class. In today's class, we are at a very, very special place. We are in the forests of Thailand. These forests are known as being the home, the abode of great meditators, those who have spent lifetimes training and cultivating their minds and living a life where they refrain from harming others. So today's class, we're going to be learning about ethical and moral conduct in Buddhism as the foundations for practicing various methods of cultivating the power of the human mind, for training the human mind. The Sanskrit for this is bhavana, and this is the word for meditation. Meditation is a form of bringing the mind under control so you can unlock the power of the mind to escape this endless cycle of old age, sickness, and death. For today's trip in the forests of Thailand, I will need you to bring along on our field trip this book right here, the Original Buddhist Sources textbook. The Original Buddhist Sources textbook, and I want you to go ahead and bookmark 3 pages. Bookmark page 83, bookmark page 79, and bookmark page 70. So 70, 79, and 83. You can have those pages bookmarked, and we're going to turn to them very shortly. Okay, let us begin. We're continuing on the third watch of the moon, the third thing that the Buddha awakens to, the path that leads out of old age, sickness, and death. This path and the teachings on how to escape this cycle of old age, sickness, and death, we call this the Dharma. The Dharma in Buddhism operates under a certain assumption about human suffering, about why we suffer, why we experience misery and hardship. And that is, suffering is self-induced and ultimately just a mental state. Suffering, the origins, the cause, and the solution all rests within the power of the human mind, or the power of the mind. The mind can manifest in different realms of existence as a human, an animal. The Buddha, in seeing the path to escaping suffering, obtaining the state of liberation called nirvana, he sees a path that is eightfold. And that eightfold path can be broken down into 3 major components: ethical conduct, or morality, mental development, which means meditation, and then finally, wisdom. The foundations of these 3, the foundation of this path is morality, and that's where we're going to begin. And remember, controlling our emotions means controlling the mind. This is what allows us to gain control over our karma and begin a process of escaping the cycle of birth and death called samsara. And here again, we see a picture of samsara, our 6 realms, the human realm, the God realm, the demigod realm, the animal realm, the hell realms, and the hungry ghost realms. It is the mind that is going to be born in one of these 6 realms, dependent on the karmic conditions of the mind. what drives karma? What causes rebirth? What causes the mind to be trapped are these three poisons of greed, dvesha, of hatred or aversion, which is, sorry, greed is raga. Greed can also mean attachment or craving. In particular, it's the craving of the five senses. Hatred or anger is represented by the snake, and this is dvesha. And ignorance is represented by the pig, and it means moha. Notice how all three animals are biting each other's tails. And this symbolizes that these three poisons are constantly in contact with one another, influencing one another. And it's these three poisons that are, are causing the whole wheel to spin, this wheel of samsara. To blow it out is the goal of Buddhism, to blow out these three poisons and thus escape and break out of jail, the jailbreak of samsara. It is this eightfold path that the Buddha sees in the final watch of the moon. And let's begin with morality and ethical conduct. That's the first foundation of the Eightfold Path. Here we see two images from Thailand. We see the image of laity and the image of the Sangha, community of monks and nuns. Here, I believe it's mostly monks. The laity, these are those who are not monks or nuns, are making offerings of food, medicine, and so forth to members of the community of monks and nuns, the Sangha. This is generosity is one example of ethical conduct. Here, in the context of COVID-19, monks in Thailand have been reversing the roles. And they are now gathering water, food, supplies for those who are being impacted by the pandemic. So morality in Buddhism has a couple major components. First, it entails taking refuge in the sources of virtue in the universe. And there are three sources of virtue, as we learned about last class. We have the Buddha, the enlightened teacher who taught the Dharma, the path to escaping old age, sickness, and suffering. This is the path that is preserved by the followers of the Buddha, in particular the community of monks and nuns, the Sangha. So taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as the foundations for developing moral conduct. And it said that if one truly has faith in these three things and takes refuge in these three things, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, one will not be reborn in the lower realms of rebirth, such as the hell realm and the hungry ghost realm. Ethical conduct, morality, there's four objectives. Number one, not to harm others. Living a life where one does not harm others with their body, speech, or mind. The other objective of moral conduct is to decrease unwholesome mental states. This means the states of ignorance, anger, attachment, and craving. All the negative attitudes, all the negative emotions that come into the mind. By living an ethical life, these will decrease. Also increasing wholesome mental states. So this means positive emotions and positive states of mind, such as love, kindness, generosity. And ultimately, it's through the practice of ethics, the practice of morality, that a foundation is set for cultivating and training the mind through meditation. If you don't have the foundation in morality and ethical conduct, Buddhism argues that really meditation is not going to bear any fruit. There's not going to be much positive results. There's not going to be this transformative impact from meditation. So looking first at our state of ethical conduct. The ethical conduct, let's go back here. This is the Eightfold Path: right speech, right action, right livelihood. So what is right speech? What is right action? What is right livelihood? Let's take a look. Right speech, samyak vak, means no lying, no divisive speech. This is speech intended to create division between yourself and others, or division among others, pitting friends against each other, pitting your family members against each other. No hurtful speech, and no gossip or idle talk. Gossiping and idle talk in many ancient cultures was seen as being a very, very dangerous thing and something to be avoided at all costs. Right actions. So what is the right action? Means no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct. No sexual misconduct in particular entails, in most Buddhist societies, is interpreted as if you're a monk or nun, you don't engage in sexual intercourse or any type of sexual conduct. If those who are married can engage in sexual conduct, but only to those to who they're married to. Right livelihood, this has to do with your occupation. This means not engaging in occupation that harms humans or animals. So you typically would not be a hunter, you would not be a butcher if someone was Buddhist. Honesty in business affairs, so not swindling your business partners, not embezzling money. Typically now, Buddhists in Buddhism, really 5 ethical precepts summarize what is meant by ethical conduct. All right, so these are 5 things one ought not to do. So not killing living beings, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct, not lying, and not indulging in intoxicants. Now here's an interesting question. Which of these would be the most dangerous, you think would do the most harm? Between killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and partaking in intoxicants. In Buddhist tradition, the answer is often that really there is no one that's more dangerous than the other. Each one could lead to one having to commit the other ethical infringements. For example, there's a classic story about a monk who meets a woman in the forest. And the woman says to the monk, "Sleep with me." And the monk says, no, I'm a monk. I'm not allowed to do that. And then she says, okay, well then have a drink with me. And the monk says, no, I'm a monk. I can't do that. Then she says, okay, fine. Well, then I want you to kill this sheep that's with me, and we'll eat this together. And he goes, no, that's killing. I can't do that. So the woman responds, well, if you don't do one of these 3 things, if you don't sleep with me, you don't kill the sheep, you don't take a drink, if you don't do at least one of these 3, I will kill myself. I'll commit suicide right here and now. And the monk thought to himself, well, okay, I don't want her to kill herself. So what's the least harmful thing I could do? Kill the sheep, have sex with the woman, or have a drink? the monk says, okay, I'm going to have a drink. The story goes, he has a drink, then he has another drink, then another drink, and he gets drunk. He becomes intoxicated. In that intoxicated state, he sleeps with the woman, and after they've had sex, the monk is kind of hungry, so he kills the sheep so that him and the woman could feast on the meat. So any one violation of these five could lead to other violations. And again, why engage in ethical conduct? Let's go ahead and bring out the book here. And let us turn to page 83 of the Olson text. This is the selection. It starts on page 82. This is the discourse on what is to be followed and what is not to be followed. So what should you do and what should you not do? And the Buddha says, monks, I say that bodily conduct, this is page 82, is of two kinds, one of which is to be followed and the other which is not to be followed. There is a disparity in bodily conduct. The Buddha then goes on to talk about there's also acts of speech that should be followed and not followed, and then things of our mind, that mental states that should be followed and not followed. Let's start with the body, and this is page 83. And what bodily conduct, revered sir, does a person follow that unwholesome mental states increase in him and the wholesome mental states decreased? Someone kills a creature, is cruel, bloody-handed, intent on injuring and violence, merciless to living creatures. If such bodily conduct is followed, unwholesome mental states increase and wholesome mental states of the mind decrease. So when one engages in harmful behavior, it causes these three poisons, these negative states of mind, to increase. And then the positive states of mind, the states of mind that make us generous, that make us loving, that inspire us to be kind to others, these decrease. So if we engage in ethical conduct, this is what weakens the power of the three poisons. This generates the positive mental states and creates a lifestyle that will be conducive to further training the mind through meditation. And in fact, ethical conduct, a moral livelihood, right action, right speech, right livelihood, this is the core foundation of Buddhism and is the prerequisite to being able to proceed on the path of meditation, which we're going to learn about very shortly. And again, our enemies are the three poisons. The three poisons lead to unwholesome actions. The opposite, so generosity, which is the opposite of greed, love, the opposite of hatred, wisdom, the opposite of ignorance. These wholesome mental states lead to positive karma and to the purification of the mind. We want to blow out these three mental states, and that's what it means to achieve this state of nirvana. So morality, meditation, and wisdom. With morality as the foundation, one is then next able to proceed onto the states of meditation. Meditation is the cure for a very destructive universe in which we live in. And I'm not talking here about an external universe. I'm talking about our internal minds, which, because of the five senses, are drawn outward. These five senses distract us. And we live in a world in which more and more so objects are arising that can distract us and lead our attention outward. So we hear, oh, shiny, great idea, news, blink, blink, noise, TV. A lot of things to think about, a lot of things attracting our attention. Well, the old saying, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. Well, our minds, according to Buddhism, gets wasted by this world of external distractions. This world surrounded by temptations. And this is some of the teachings of the Buddha. This is from a text called the Dhammapada. The Buddha says the mind is very hard to check, and swift it falls on what it wants. The training of the mind is good. A mind so tamed brings happiness. So our minds are easily distracted, and these easily distracted minds, there's no happiness that can be lasting happiness to be found in this state. We have to tame the mind. Drifting far, staying all alone, formless, recumbent in a cave, they will be free from Mara's bonds. Who restrain this mind? Here, remember where we are. We're in the forests. Mara was the demon that tried to tempt Siddhartha into no longer pursuing the path of enlightenment. Here the text is saying, well, there's certain places we can go to train the mind. And in this case, it's the forest, caves, places where these external distractions are not going to overwhelm us. Another verse, whatever harm an enemy may do to an enemy, or a hater to a hater, an ill-directed mind inflicts on oneself a greater harm. So a negative mind, a mind of hatred and anger, this creates more harm and suffering on us than any enemy ever could. Neither mother, father, nor any relative can do one greater good than one's own well-directed mind. So the worst enemy is one's mind. The best friend is one's mind, depending on whether the mind is untamed, unsettled, overcome by external distractions. This is one's worst enemy. But a mind that's focused on cultivating positive mental states, this is the mind that is one's very best friend. Meditation. There's many, many types of meditation in Buddhism, and Buddhism draws on meditation practices found in other religions at times. These other religions might include Jainism or Hinduism. But amidst all the various different types of meditation, and we'll look at more of them next class, there are two major types. There is shamatha. This is calm, abiding meditation. This is where the mind will rest and focus on a single object. Well, what can the mind focus on? Let's turn to page 70 of this book. And the Buddha asks, and how, monks, does a mind abide contemplating the body in the body? Herein, monks, a monk gone to the forest, to the root of a tree, or to an empty place, sits cross-legged, holding his back erect, and establishes mindfulness in front of him. So here the Buddha is describing what's often the lotus posture. The body takes a correct posture. The individual is ideally withdrawn from this world into a place of isolation. And then the individual focuses on, in this case, I'm in the second paragraph, mindful he breathes in, mindful he breathes out. While he is breathing in a long breath, he comprehends, I am breathing in a long breath. Or breathing out a long breath, he comprehends, I am breathing out a long breath. And while he's breathing in a short breath, he comprehends, I am breathing in a short breath. Or while he's breathing out a short breath, he says, he comprehends, I am breathing out a short breath. So this is a very popular meditation in many traditions, not just Buddhism, a practice of calming the mind by focusing on observing and watching the breath, the inhaling and exhaling. So one will watch and observe inhaling and exhaling. So if you would like to practice that, you can try it. Just sit and watch your breath go in and out, in and out, in and out. By engaging in this practice, the mind will experience a sense of calm. And with a calm mind, you're able to focus better. And then this will be the second form of meditation found in Buddhism. That is vipassana. Here one will actually use the mind that is calm and tranquil to contemplate on how things exist. And using this mind, one will observe three things: the nature of suffering, the nature that all the things in this world that bring us supposed happiness are in fact impermanence, and that ultimately we lack a permanent self, an ego that represents who we truly are. This is a pretty complex concept, the concept of no self. We're going to go into this more next week. And this is kind of the Buddhist answer to this question of who are you, or who am I really? Who is my true self? This can be realized through the process of meditation. Now, if we turn to page 79 of our readings, the Buddha will walk us through, and there's different paragraphs, but with the mind that's purified, it is that mind that can undergo the process of awakening. And remember, the Buddha means awakened one. What are you awakened to? You're awakened to your previous lives. You're awakened to how karma operates, and you're awakened to how one finds a path out of suffering. You can read about that process of awakening on page 79 of this book. All right, so this will conclude our introductory lecture on meditation. We'll talk more about meditation next week. In the meantime, please stay safe, stay well, and stay tuned.